The Navy's newest vessel arrived in Norfolk for the first time today. USNS Robert E. Simanek is commissioned.
The Navy's unveiling of its newest aircraft carrier, christened by Elon Musk as a vessel that cannot be stopped, is not simply the latest addition to America's fleet, but rather a watershed moment that redefines naval power, deterrence, and the philosophy of warfare itself. Unlike its predecessors, which symbolized incremental progress in shipbuilding and weapons integration, this carrier represents a generational leap that fuses automation, artificial intelligence, limitless energy systems, and defensive technologies once confined to science fiction. Musk's declaration that it is unstoppable is not mere rhetoric. It reflects the convergence of aerospace innovation, naval engineering, and energy breakthroughs into a single platform designed to dominate every conceivable domain of conflict: sea, air, undersea, and even cyberspace. For the first time, a warship is envisioned not just as a floating airfield, but as an autonomous command nexus capable of orchestrating swarms of drones, neutralizing hypersonic threats, and projecting force indefinitely without resupply. The significance of such a development extends far beyond military circles. Geopolitically, the carrier shifts the balance of maritime strategy overnight. In contested waters such as the South China Sea, the Arctic passages, or the Indian Ocean trade corridors, the very presence of an unstoppable vessel would render traditional deterrence doctrines obsolete. Rivals who have invested billions in anti-carrier technologies, missiles, submarines, or long-range precision systems, would suddenly face the prospect that their efforts are irrelevant. This imbalance creates not just tactical superiority for the United States, but psychological dominance. When an adversary believes they cannot win, escalation becomes unlikely, and diplomacy tilts heavily in favor of the nation wielding the ultimate symbol of indomitable strength. Allies, meanwhile, see renewed guarantees of American protection, encouraging closer cooperation and strengthening global security commitments in ways that extend well beyond the ship's immediate presence. Economically, the unveiling of this unstoppable carrier forces a reckoning across the global defense industry. For decades, much of modern weapons research has revolved around outmaneuvering or overwhelming aircraft carriers. Hypersonic glide vehicles, stealth submarines, and precision missile systems were developed largely to challenge these platforms. But a ship that can neutralize every vector of attack renders entire weapons programs obsolete overnight, destabilizing defense markets and forcing nations to redirect their military investments. While industries reliant on anti-carrier programs may face disruption, others will thrive as demand grows for technologies that complement or counterbalance the new era of naval supremacy. At the same time, the innovations that underpin this vessel, fusion energy, electromagnetic launch systems, AI-driven defense networks, are poised to spill over into civilian sectors. Just as radar, GPS, and nuclear power transition from military tools to world-changing civilian technologies, the systems keeping this carrier afloat may transform commercial shipping, aviation, and renewable energy. The cultural and philosophical implications are equally profound. Musk's framing of the carrier as unstoppable resonates with a public imagination accustomed to marvels of science fiction. It evokes images of floating fortresses immune to destruction, embodiments of technological destiny. In doing so, it elevates the vessel beyond the role of war machine and into a symbol of human ambition itself, an assertion that innovation, when pushed to its limits, can overcome even the most complex challenges of survival and security. Within the military, it redefines the role of the sailor. Automation and AI integration mean fewer crew members, augmented by advanced systems that train, monitor, and adapt in real time. Life aboard may resemble a futuristic ecosystem as much as a ship. Augmented reality interfaces, medical AI monitoring, and cyber-shielded environments shaping a new kind of naval existence. Yet, with these triumphs come new dangers. If the unstoppable carrier makes conventional naval warfare obsolete, adversaries may redirect their strategies toward asymmetrical domains, cyber attacks, sabotage, orbital weapons, or economic disruption. The balance of conflict will not vanish, but mutate. The United States may enjoy unmatched maritime supremacy, but rivals will probe vulnerabilities in new arenas. The carrier, then, becomes both a deterrent and a magnet, reshaping the global chessboard while forcing innovation in unexpected directions. This duality underscores the deeper truth Musk's announcement reveals. Unstoppable does not mean invulnerable to all threats, but rather invulnerable within its defined sphere. And in the oceans, that is enough to tip the balance of power for decades. In historical perspective, the unstoppable carrier falls in line with other civilization-shifting innovations: the longbow, the steam engine, the aircraft, the nuclear submarine. Each redefined the rules of conflict, rewriting the logic of deterrence and forcing societies to adapt. The Navy's newest creation continues this lineage, but on a scale that merges military power with cultural imagination, economic disruption, and global diplomacy. It is not merely a ship. It is a statement, a fulcrum upon which strategies, industries, and alliances will pivot. As Musk himself suggested, this is not an evolutionary step, but a reimagining of what an aircraft carrier can be. And in doing so, it has transformed the oceans from a contested battlefield into a stage where the future of human power, ambition, and innovation now sails. The unstoppable carrier, a civilization-defining creation. The birth of a new era. The unveiling of the unstoppable carrier by the U.S. Navy, hailed by Elon Musk as a vessel that cannot be stopped, marks more than the commissioning of a warship. It is the introduction of a paradigm that reshapes humanity's relationship to oceans, warfare, and technological destiny. Unlike earlier carriers, marvels of steel and aviation but vulnerable to missile strikes, submarines, or aerial swarms, this vessel is designed not to survive engagements, but to transcend them. It is armored, shielded, automated, and sustained by energy systems that effectively eliminate logistical fragility. In naval history, such an introduction is equivalent to the first ironclads appearing against wooden fleets, or the first nuclear-powered submarines rendering surface navies obsolete at depth. Humanity is witnessing the birth of a category so singular that it creates its own era, the age of unstoppable power projection. 2. The technological convergence. The carrier's invulnerability is not derived from a single miracle technology, but from a convergence. At its heart lies an advanced reactor, whether fusion-based or an unprecedented fission-fusion hybrid, that allows indefinite operation without refueling. This limitless energy powers railguns, directed energy weapons, and electromagnetic defense grids capable of neutralizing incoming threats at hypersonic speeds. Drone swarms, launched by electromagnetic catapults, act as both offensive spears and defensive shields, creating layered protection far beyond the range of conventional missiles. Artificial intelligence operates as the ship's nervous system, monitoring threats, rerouting power, and executing countermeasures faster than human reflexes allow. The vessel is less a ship than a floating ecosystem of autonomous systems, each learning, adapting, and reinforcing the others. It is both fortress and brain, a sentient naval citadel capable of reshaping the battle space around it. 3. Strategic doctrine overturned. Traditionally, carriers required escorts, destroyers to guard against submarines, cruisers to defend against air attack, and submarines to strike unseen. But if the carrier itself cannot be neutralized, the fleet composition changes. Entire naval doctrines, built on lead defense, are made obsolete. The unstoppable carrier becomes not the vulnerable core of a battle group, but the battle group itself, able to project power anywhere in the world without dependence. Adversaries who invested in carrier-killer weapons, ballistic missiles, submarine fleets, hypersonic gliders, find their arsenals irrelevant overnight. This is not simply superiority. It is the annihilation of parity. Strategic planners must now confront a world where the U.S. Navy can enforce dominance in any theater without fear of losing its crown jewel. 4. Geopolitical shockwaves. For allies, the unstoppable carrier is a reassurance. NATO partners, Pacific allies, and trade-dependent nations recognize that American naval supremacy guarantees open sea lanes. Global commerce, 90% of which travels by sea, now rests under an ironclad shield. For adversaries, however, The unveiling is destabilizing. Nations such as China and Russia, which pursued anti-access area denial, A2OAD, strategies to keep U.S. carriers at bay, see their decades of military planning undone. Regions like the South China Sea, once contested, now tilt decisively toward American influence. Diplomatically, this creates leverage far beyond the oceans. Allies seek deeper ties, adversaries reconsider escalation, and neutral states realign their policies in recognition of a new global fact. American power is unchallengeable at sea. The economic reverberations. Defense markets are shaken. The unstoppable carrier makes entire weapons categories redundant. Billions spent on hypersonic carrier killers, stealth submarines, or long-range missile systems may now be wasted. Defense industries scramble to pivot, while new sectors, AI integration, drone swarm logistics, space-linked naval systems, boom. Civilian industries, too, will feel the ripple. Unlimited shipborne energy could inspire commercial nuclear or fusion shipping. Autonomous defense systems may trickle down into civilian AI security. The unstoppable carrier, like radar or GPS before it, will eventually seed innovations across commerce, transport, and energy. 6. Cultural myth-making. Beyond strategy and economics lies myth. Humanity has always been fascinated by the invincible walls of Troy, Rome's legions, the Titanic. The unstoppable carrier enters this lineage not as myth but as reality. Its very existence challenges cultural narratives that no human creation is indestructible. To the public, it becomes more than a ship. It is a floating monument, a symbol of destiny, a leviathan made flesh. Literature, cinema, and art will immortalize it, while its silhouette, vast, unyielding, becomes a totem of modernity. For sailors, serving aboard is akin to living inside history, embodying not just defense but civilization's cutting edge. 7. Philosophical dilemmas. But what does it mean to create the unstoppable? For centuries, balance defined survival. For every spear, a shield. For every empire, a rival. The unstoppable carrier breaks this balance, raising philosophical questions about hubris, morality, and power. Is invulnerability a path to peace? Deterrence so absolute that war becomes unthinkable? Or does it provoke new forms of escalation, driving adversaries into cyber war, biowar, or orbital weapons where invulnerability does not exist? Philosophers may compare it to the nuclear bomb, another ultimate weapon that paradoxically preserved peace through fear. Yet unlike nuclear arms, which carried taboo and restraint, the unstoppable carrier is a usable, conventional instrument. Its deployment, therefore, risks normalizing absolute dominance in everyday geopolitics. 8. Environmental paradox. Ironically, the unstoppable carrier may be the greenest warship ever built. Its reactors eliminate dependence on fossil fuel convoys, reducing global military emissions. Advanced recycling systems manage waste at unprecedented efficiency. It could even double as a humanitarian platform, generating vast quantities of clean water, power, and communications for disaster zones. Thus, it becomes not only a weapon of war but a paradoxical agent of sustainability and relief, blurring the line between destroyer and savior. 9. Vulnerabilities beyond the hull. No creation is truly unstoppable. While the carrier may resist torpedoes, missiles, and drones, it cannot escape the broader battlefield. Cyber infiltration, orbital strikes, economic sabotage, or political corruption all bypass its armor. The lesson is clear. Invulnerability at sea does not mean invulnerability everywhere. Indeed, the very existence of such a vessel may provoke adversaries to innovate in unconventional, asymmetric domains, accelerating the next arms race, not in steel, but in code and orbit. X, a prototype for space. Perhaps the most profound legacy of the unstoppable carrier lies not in oceans but in stars. Its autonomy, energy systems, and self-sustaining ecosystem make it a prototype for deep space vessels. Just as submarines inspired spacecraft design, The unstoppable carrier may foreshadow humanity's first interstellar ships, self-sufficient, shielded, and commanded by human-AI integration. In this sense, it is not only a warship but a rehearsal for civilization's next chapter, leaving Earth's seas for the seas of the cosmos.